My name is Josh Hetzler, and I serve as legal counsel for the Founding Freedoms Law Center. In September of last year, we stood right here with our clients, licensed counselors John and Janet Raymond, to announce the filing of our lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of Virginia's so-called conversion therapy ban that was passed in 2020. Today, I stand here to announce that the Founding Freedoms Law Center has secured a major free speech victory for all Virginia counselors. The Henrico Circuit Court recently entered an order that permanently enjoins the Commonwealth from enforcing the conversion therapy statute and regulations to prevent counselors from engaging in talk therapy with minors for the purpose of helping them align their sexual feelings and behaviors with biological reality and human design. Talk therapy consists of voluntary conversations, prayer, and sharing of written materials such as scripture between a counselor and a client. Significantly, the court's order applies not just to the Raymonds who challenged the law, but to all licensed Virginia counselors. The parties in this case, including the Virginia Department of Health Professions, its director, and the Board of Counseling, all agreed that enforcing this law against the provision of talk therapy would violate the Virginia Constitution as well as the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. With this court order, every counselor in Virginia will now be able to speak freely, truthfully, and candidly with clients who are seeking to have those critical conversations about their identity and to hear faith-based insights from trusted professionals. The growing number of parents who are seeking guidance from their struggling children in an era when gender dysphoria has become a contagion among young people will finally be able to find knowledgeable counselors like the Raymonds who can offer help. Without question, this is a major victory for free speech, religious freedom, and parental rights in Virginia. We are honored to stand with John and Janet Raymond, and who had the courage to take on this fight. We are grateful also to the defendants in this case and to the Attorney General, who did the right thing by siding with the Constitution. And most of all, we thank God for providing this favorable result to protect the conscience of every Virginia counselor. Now I would like to recognize Dr. John Raymond to make a few brief remarks, followed by Victoria Cobb, President of the Family Foundation.
So 5 years ago, our legislature infringed on the fundamental rights of free speech and religion of every counselor in Virginia, including ourselves. They legislated that within the confines of a voluntary therapeutic relationship that two or more people cannot discuss a topic that was important to the parties involved. Having taken an oath to support and defend our Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, when I enlisted in the Army, I felt I had no choice but to oppose this act as a hostile ideological invasion within our Commonwealth. I was appalled that these elected legislatures, who also swore an oath to protect those same freedoms, chose to dishonor so many people who paid the ultimate price protecting those freedoms that we might flourish in our healthy pursuits. We celebrate the 4th of July for many reasons, and this victory is one of them. Because of this court order, we will no longer be prevented from addressing the challenging issues of sexual identity and values held by many believers in God designed for human beings. Likewise, every counselor in Virginia will now have their conscious rights restored. Jan and I are thankful to the Founding Freedoms Law Center and the Family Foundation of Virginia for taking up this mantle and pursuing the correction of this egregious act from our legislature. Most importantly, we thank God that He gives us the freedom to speak, to believe, to seek His wisdom, and to grow as we live this life in community. He is indeed the gracious and merciful God who is Lord of all.
Exactly 5 years ago today, on July 1st, 2020, a new law took effect in Virginia that silenced licensed counselors from speaking the truth about gender and sexuality and effectively prevented teens from getting the help they and their parents were seeking to resolve unwanted feelings of same-sex attraction or gender confusion. On the very same day, 5 years ago, the Founding Freedoms Law Center formally launched with the expressed purpose of combating this and other unconstitutional laws that were infringing on the fundamental rights of Virginians. I am exceedingly pleased to see the fruition of the dream that our law center would not only protect the rights of specific counselors harmed by the radical left's desire to shut down any speech that doesn't align with their ideology, like John and Janet Raymond, but also block the enforcement of this unconstitutional law on other counselors. 5 years ago, our policy team advised the liberal legislature and the Governor Northam that this law would not stand. No doubt, Attorney General Mark Herring knew this law wouldn't fly, but supported its enactment anyway. Legislation has consequences. Legislation that passes under liberals who don't respect the rights guaranteed to every Virginian for free speech and the practice of one's religion has victims. Due to the General Assembly's refusal to respect our Constitution, for 5 years, a muzzle has been placed over the mouths of every licensed counselor in the state of Virginia. For 5 years, Virginia's children struggling over gender confusion and sexuality have been left without professional help. Challenging the idea that a kid might not actually be born in the wrong body and maybe is just experiencing the results of a culture of confusion and insecurity of growing up, that was illegal. Offering any answer other than encouraging children to irreversibly cut up their own body and chemically castrate themselves made a counselor in violation of Virginia law. For 5 years, children were not allowed to be told that they were perfect just the way they were born. For 5 years, it was illegal for a professional counselor to tell them anything other than that they needed to change themselves surgically and chemically. If the Virginia General Assembly had listened to the uproar of Virginians when they flirted with the idea of sanctioning speech and telling counselors they need to check their faith and common sense at the door, then for 5 years, children across the state would have had access to the help they need. Counselors would have been afforded the liberty of our Constitution guarantees, and parents would have been able to better walk with their children through the lies that are being broadcast to them. They didn't listen, and now 5 years later, thanks to our brave clients, John and Janet Raymond, and the Founding Freedoms Law Center, we have restored these rights that should have never been in jeopardy in the first place. This is a major victory for free speech, religious freedom, and parental rights in Virginia. This victory is one of several where courts have undone much of the leftist nonsense passed during the era when Virginians were subjected to unbalanced government full of left-wing ideologues. But Virginians should not forget this as we go into yet another election year. The electorate must pick leaders that understand the Constitution and value its principles of free speech and religious freedom. We are so proud of the Founding Freedoms Law Center for safeguarding these fundamental rights that we hold so dear in this Commonwealth, and they are just getting started.